Can you do two things for me this week? Pay attention to all the things that happen throughout the week. And when something comes up, maybe it's happened a million times before, maybe you've just never paid attention to it happening, stop and think about it. That's number one. Number two, when you find that one thing, try to look at it through a different lens. Try to look at it in a different light. Try to look at it through a different set of eyes. Can you do that for me? Hi, everybody. Kevin Barheit here. Thanks for tuning in. When we're in early recovery, it can be really stark. Just facing even driving down the road, doing laundry, going to work, getting a paycheck, talking to people. Everything can be overwhelming. A couple of reasons for that, especially in recovery from alcohol and addiction. We don't have the drugs and alcohol to really quell the anxiety and the shame and the remorse and all the guilt and all the feelings we've been carrying around. And those can come up, those can really pop up, and it makes it difficult to feel like we can be part of society, a part of the day-to-day routine. And while it's important to recognize those struggles and all the feelings that we have, it's also just as important at times to really take a step back and pay attention to some of the peace that's around us, some of the joy that's coming at us sometimes right in our face. And we don't have to focus even on just the recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. We can focus on things like the fact that I recovered from the sexual abuse, the fact that I really struggled with my adoption and my abandonment issues. Coming through any of that kind of grieving, that kind of recovery, that kind of healing can be painful and can be scary. And it can be hard to see the things that are right in front of our face. In the last episode, I spoke of my father's passing 9 years ago and the grieving process that I went through then. Any kind of a traumatic change like that where the grieving process really takes over our mind, body, heart, and our soul, that makes it very difficult to see those little things during the day, those things that sometimes maybe we take for granted, but to see them in a different light, to see them in a different way. Sometime in the next week, after you've watched this video, just remember I'm asking just two simple things. Take the time to really pay attention to your day. Maybe it's something that happens all the time. Maybe as you're driving to work in the morning or driving home in the afternoon, and you're just on your way and you're not thinking about where you're going. Pay attention when you're at the stoplight. Maybe pay attention when you're waiting to take that left-hand turn. Look around for one extra minute. And then whether it's a positive thing or even a not so positive thing, try to look at it with a different light. Try to look at it through a different lens, a different way of thinking. I promise that this will take a few minutes of your time, but it's going to pay dividends for hours, days, weeks, months, and maybe even years. What really made me think of this was it was a major snowstorm over the past 24 hours. Still snowing outside right now, and I'll probably have to do the driveway for the third time sometime tonight before I go to bed. When I was in early sobriety, I hadn't seen my parents much for quite a while. I hadn't seen anyone in my family, and I was reconciling with them slowly. And I had a washer and dryer in my apartment, but my parents, at one of my trips in the first 6 months or so that I was getting to know them again and getting to know myself in recovery, they had said, if you ever want to bring your laundry over, you can. And I said, I'll bring my laundry and we can have dinner. And they said, that's great. Everyone was a little tentative about it, a little nervous. And I made a commitment to come. And that night there was a huge snowstorm. And my parents called me and said, well, we better do it tomorrow. And I was just dead set. I said, no, I've got to do it tonight. I've got to do it. I got to do it. I think my courage was up just to get it done and to get there and to try. Well, I got in the car in that snowstorm and I was driving through the back roads and it was pitch black. It had to be maybe 8 o'clock at night on a wintry night, and the snow was coming down and it got worse by the second. I was probably going through about a foot of snow just trying to get there. And I don't know what possessed me, but I had the lights in the car on and I decided, because I couldn't hardly see anything in front of me, to turn my high beams on. I know, if any of you have driven in the snow, you know that turning the high beams on basically just gives you a white blindness that you can't see anything. So I turned the high beams off again. But before I did that, in that split second, I realized that that whiteout was something I had seen probably 1,000,000 times in my life. All that snow around me, but I hadn't quite seen it this way before. And as I'm driving down the road, at probably 2 miles an hour now, I stared out the window, put my chin almost on the steering wheel, and I made sure that my eyes adjusted to the low beam light. And all I could see was just the flurries everywhere, the snow flying around everywhere. And I stared out into that blackness and I flipped on the high beams and I saw a billion stars flying all around me. It just looked so beautiful. And being the good addict that I am, I turned them back off again, probably slowed down to 1 mile an hour. And again, high beam, low beam, high beam, low beam. And every time I did that, I got a jolt of electricity through me. I don't know whether it was a spiritual experience. I don't know whether it was just an emotional upheaval. All I know is for a minute, I didn't think about where I was going. I didn't think about the laundry I had to do. I didn't think about sitting with my parents, shaking, wondering if we could ever get along again. I didn't think about the past, and I didn't think about the future. I don't even think I thought about the snow. I just wasn't thinking about anything. I was just letting the moment take me over. And it took me somewhere that to this day, 34 years later almost, I remember, because it changed me. And this is a story I've thought of today while I was doing the driveway in my house. Never owned a house before. I never had the things that I have. I never had a snowblower, for goodness sakes. My life has changed so much, and I can look around me and I can get awfully busy and think about my wonderful family, my wife, my 4 children, my beautiful grandchildren, my mother. I can think about all those things, and I can really embrace them and feel so grateful for them. I can also feel sadness and have to process the pain of the past. And there are times when I can worry and focus on the future. But I don't want to miss the high beam, low beam moments. Maybe the moment that you'll find this week will be in a snowstorm. Maybe it'll be, if you're in California, sitting outside enjoying a warm breeze. Maybe if you're in Arizona and you're my sponsor, hi Richard, maybe it's sitting out with the cat and taking a look at the cat's tail swishing back and forth and recognizing for that one moment, that is something I can look at a little differently. And maybe I can just shine a new light on it. Maybe I can pop up the high beams just for a minute and see what they show me. If this is your first time here, please subscribe right now. Click that subscribe button. If it's not your first time here and you're not subscribed, and I know some of you are watching and haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe button right now. Go ahead, do it. Click, click, click. Make sure you like, make sure you share. Please, comments below. Love to engage here on Twitter and other places. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Can't wait to see you next week. Take care, everybody.